How y'all doing? In the 90s, while I rarely played role-playing games and such, I did play a little. And and while I admit we didn't play very well as far as role-playing games go, I had a good time with it. And one of the ones I played, and I still love today, is Werewolf the Apocalypse. And Werewolf the Apocalypse is a role-playing game where you play, obviously, a werewolf. And the whole theme of it is that you as a werewolf, along with the others, are trying to protect the world known as Gaia from the oncoming destruction, from the apocalypse caused by the great evil spirit called the Worm. And the Worm's representation of all the corruption, destruction, that's going to eventually destroy the planet. There's a whole cosmology about that. This game right here takes place in the same world as the famous Vampire the Masquerade, where in that one you obviously play a vampire. And and while Vampire was always, I love reading about that, not as much as I enjoyed Werewolf. And I always have a soft spot for werewolves. But in Werewolf, when you make your character, there are 13 tribes you choose from. And these tribes are obviously usually of a regional theme because they have a history in the ancient past. But sometimes it's just a matter of sometimes some of them are in societal levels. Like for instance, the Silverfangs, which are the rulers of the 13 tribes, at least they try to be anyway. They derive from Russia. The Black Furies, an all-female tribe, they derive from ancient Greece, from their practices and such. But it's not always regional, because you have the Glasswalkers, which are werewolves that live in the cities, and they also have the Bonars, which are the runts, so to speak. They live like the homeless and the not so well, but they're hardcore survivors. The Red Towns, which is all wolf. The Lupus breed, the wolf tribe, no hominids in there at all, but they live out in nature. The Gita Fenris, they derive from Nordic stock, Vikings and such. They also the Fianna, which are your Celtic, so you see where we're getting at. I'm usually not one for favorites when it comes to things, but the one that stuck to me the most, because I love Egyptian-themed things, and that is the Silent Striders. This tribe right here. And as you can see, as if it's Egyptian, so a lot of wolves, the wolf forms of these have a tendency to look like jackal, more closer to Anubis of ancient Egypt. And they made a series of books of it. Like 1 year, White Wolf, the game publisher, did a whole Year of the Scarab, a series of source books where you play in Egypt. There were some from Vampire the Masquerade, Werewolf the Apocalypse, of course, because there's a history among some of the vampires and werewolves here. So we'll talk about the Silent Striders. Silent Striders are in current werewolf society, they are the scouts, the wanderers, the messengers. They don't have a homeland of their own. As I said, they come from Egypt, but unfortunately in the past, a great elder vampire called Set, named after the Egyptian god Set, it's taken on it's probably where it comes from, what have you. Set was at odds with the Silent Striders and defeated them and kicked them out of Egypt. So now the Silent Striders don't have a home of their own. And so they would serve as wanderers, they would serve as messengers, mercenaries, so to speak, and what have you. But they can't go back home, and Rage Against Egypt deals with the werewolves, not just Silent Striders, but other tribes, but deals with conflicts that happen in that area. So naturally they're going to come to this. I always was fond of the fact that, that sort of lone wanderer, and I love the Egyptian look to this. Where am I going with all this? Well, I just collected the miniatures of Silent Striders. And this one has the half-wolf, half-man werewolf form, you think, called a Krynos. There's a giant direwolf hispo form, and you have the lupus form, which is a wolf. In werewolf, you have 5 forms you choose from in a spectrum. On one end, you have the human form, normal human. You have the glabro form, which is kind of near human. He gets a little bigger. He's still human-looking, but he gets a little hair. He could get a little hairier, gets bulkier, gets sharper teeth, gets claws. Think Lon Chaney Jr. or Jack from The Wolfman, or Jack Nicholson in the movie Wolf back in the 90s. That sort of thing. Then you got the Krynos form. This is considered a war form. That's what you see when you think of being a giant fighting werewolf and such. But then you got the Hispo form, which is a large dire wolf. You use that, again, in combat, but with a stronger bite. And then you have the regular wolf form. They use that for the extra stamina, speed, and what have you. Or it's a wolf form, not without its advantages. And the way Ral Partha, who made these miniatures, it's kind of hard to sell, all those 5 forms at once. I think I'm going to try and link you down to a website, and you can see all that was available. They didn't make all the tribes, unfortunately, but White Wolf was more strictly role-playing than with miniatures, with markers and all. You didn't really need them that much. And even if you did, with Werewolf, you had 5 forms, and they didn't put like a 5-pack of all, with all 13 tribes. They could have, but that's not the way they went. So I've seen some of them with the Shadow Striders here. You got this pack with all the wolf forms, but there were 2 other packs, male and female, that had the human form and the near human form, the Glabro. And so, that makes sense to a degree. But then there are also some packs where we'll just put the human. I think the Silver Fangs have put if the website was correct, they put the human and male and female human, and then the wolf and the Hispo formed in one pack. It didn't make sense all the time. I don't know what the deal is with that. But they did make miniatures of it, and they even made miniatures of Vampire the Masquerade, and even Mage the Ascension, another one of the games as well. But this one right here, I got from eBay for a relatively decent price for an out-of-print miniature. I picked these up when I was in my early years of collecting, and I painted it a light brown with a darker stripes in the back. I'll show it off after a while. But that was my early years of painting. I didn't know about washes. I didn't know about dry brushing. So, and while I don't think I'm going to show too much improvement of technique, what I plan to do with this, I'm going to paint these, black with a gray highlight. It will. I just want to see after getting this, with a slightly better, techniques I had, maybe look more impressive. So, let's take a look at, let's take these out of the package and see what we got. Okay, so here we are. We got this pack right here. And funny thing I noticed here, despite, this is the Krynos, this is the Lupus, this is the Hispo, but the description got it wrong. They put the Glabro there as well. Krynos, Hispo, Glabro, that's the Lupus form, that's the wolf form. So let's take this out. Alright, so here we go. Typical blister pack of miniatures here. It has been opened since the 90s. This is the first time, over 20 years. Alright, take a look at this. Let's start with the Lupus form. Nope. And, it's got some flash here I need to take off, and maybe some filing here and there. I'll get to that shortly, but, this is not uncommon. It just shows that there's little to no air bubbles here. But here you go. So, wolf, jackal-like wolf on on some rocks. Nice and straightforward. Says I plan to play in black with a gray highlight. These will be very quick. Probably the most detail will be in the face. Just give it some lightish features. I've seen some pictures on the internet where they actually painted these more like traditional jackals out in Egypt, and it tempted me. But I want to go with a more darker look that you see. It's a nicely detailed on the hair and everything. So when you dry brush, dry brush would be very effective on that. Nice expressive eyes. Alright. And yeah, this is pretty bad on the flash here, the excessive amounts of pewter. I swear, sometimes you get enough of these. If I mold the miniatures myself, I will probably have enough to mold a few more miniatures. And this one right here, the Warform Krynos, still got some flash on the glaive here. If you're like me, this is kind of bothersome to some people. I hate it when I prime these and ready to paint, and I find a few that I still haven't got. But here you go. This is the one I really love. It's got a nice little Egyptian ankh around its neck. It's got like a couple of late colors. But again, and small dagger, most likely a glaive, which is a spiritual dagger of the werewolves. They're spirit-bound blades that do excessive damage, usually made of silver. And of course, it's Werewolf the Apocalypse, so yeah, they have a weakness to silver. Other than that, they regenerate quickly like Wolverine. But there you go. So you got the 3 forms here, and again, as I said, if you want to get the human and Glabro forms, they came in separate packs, male and female. The males have a whip, and the think the females have a gun. It's kind of hard to tell. And you can find those on eBay. I found this on eBay, and I was lucky enough to buy it in the last minute. And there was a temptation to get the second one that the same seller was bringing. I was like, no, I'll give someone else a chance at that, because these show up so rarely. You can find many other Werewolf the Apocalypse miniatures, especially the wolf forms, but the Silent Striders is my favorite. It's hard to find. So, it'll take a while, but I'll go ahead and skip forward to after the painting and show off my results. All right. Well, after that time, when I finally got around to them, here are my results. Let's show off the lupus form. Here we go. As I say, I tended to paint them darker. And let's see, mostly black with a gray highlight so you can see the individual hairs. I painted the eyes white with a brown pupil. Not really too much, and of course, painted the base there. The bases are kind of interesting. I guess they're trying to do an urban setting where these guys go. So you see some concrete slabs and some rocky terrain. Sometimes you can paint this up, like bits in the middle here, like toxic waste. But yes, this is lupus form. Turned out all right. And then let's go on and continue with the Hispo form, the larger wolf. Nice going on all fours, and this one is traveling on mud cracks again, sort of the same dirt ground. However you want to paint that, but again, same pattern. Gray highlights with same eye color and everything. But let's go to the highlights. The Kranos form, and this one always have most features. The necklace, got the armband. And they also got the glaive. Also got the I painted him up as sort of leather, wraps around his ankles there. And I'm pretty satisfied with the results. But I'm also going to show you, I'm going to compare these to the ones I've had before. So here's a lupus I got right now. Here's the one I painted from years ago back in the 90s. And I know I tried to say I want to do my improved paint techniques, but I guess to say it wasn't overly too much, except that this one was dry brush, so you can see individual hairs. This one I just painted straight up one shade of brown, or reddish brown, and then I attempted, and I know it's a lot of gloss here, but I tried to paint jackal stripes the best I could on, with a darker shade of brown. I painted the eyes blue, notice no pupils there. I never knew about washes or dry brushes at the time. Everything's painted up a flat color. The rocks right here, I painted black, and I just painted gray over it. So, again, no washes at the time. Painted this stuff green because I figured like toxic sludge or something like that. Kind of wanted to trade to the worm. So there you go. That's the lupus form of that in comparison. My Hispo form, again, the same thing. So here you got the dark one of the new one. Here's the old one I did. From the same pack. Again, try to paint dark brown stripes over a reddish brown, and it's just a flat color on the base, blue eyes. Not overly too much, but you're starting off and you're impressed with what you did as a kid. And here's the Kranos form of the Kranos of the old and new. So again, it doesn't look like much different, but this one I could probably show bit more individual hairs, bit muscle tone. This one, again, flat color. Let's see, again, brown stripes, best that I could. And let's see, the glaive, is different. I painted a black handle with a gold, hilt and just straight silver blade. This one right here, I've used a gold handle on the cross guard, a little copper with a bronze highlight on the part touching the blade, and I used a dark the spine of the blade, I use a sort of a dark metal. I use the edge with a little of a blade steel. Then I did the very edges, the corners, with a mithril silver. The ankh I painted a copper with a gold highlight. The claws, you could probably see to a degree. Again, just flat white there. Here I painted with, because I painted a brown, a bone white, and a pure white. So here I just painted an anklet silver. This one dark brown to make it look like leather, which will make sense, to help move. And of course, there's an armband to these guys. I just painted flat silver on my original. This one I painted copper with the crescent moon, painted one silver with a silver edge. So there you go. But these aren't the only miniatures I got from Werewolf the Apocalypse mine. My very, very first one was this guy. Oh yeah, my early days of painting. To be, again, we did what we could. My friend and I took turns painting this and repainting this. This one right here is a Silver Fang Krynos form. It's only in about the weird packaging I mentioned earlier. This one was only by itself. They didn't put it with Hispo and Lupus as with the Silent Striders. That came in its own separate pack. And Silver Fangs are known for having the pure white hair. We started painting this gray, or actually, before we found out what the Silver Fangs were, I painted it brown. Then I changed my mind when we found out what the Silver Fangs were, so we tried to take the paint off in hot water, scrubbed it off, and then repainted it again, gray and white, and this is the end result. So I'll keep it as it is. I didn't even bother painting the bottom of the base. And the base itself, I just painted a dark gray. No washes and for showing the cracks or highlights. Because again, I didn't know about it at the time. I mean, the glaive itself, gold handle, brown straps, and one coat of silver. He carries a stake, I'm guessing to help stop vampires. I painted black. He's got a wristwatch, and he's got a necklace. That's you do what you can at first try. Painted the gums pink so teeth will stand out a tad bit. Otherwise, just show plain white. Again, early example, but just showing that it's not the only one I got. So there you all have it. My old Silent Striders and my new Silent Striders, and just to try out a different paint color, slightly better technique. I guess in comparison, it's not, it doesn't look like it's overly too much of a difference as I was expecting, but I'm not unhappy with the results. So if you can, and if you get them at a good price on like eBay or something like that, go ahead and grab what you can. These guys will be harder to find, than say the Homids and all that. But eBay has a small selection. You can probably start there. And I just came to realize I have a large number of, gather them all together, I have quite a number of werewolves I've collected over years. So, but right now I'll just show off a slideshow before and after of how these guys turned out, and you can see still photos of the old and new put together. So thank you all for watching. Have a nice day.